Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for coming back for another video. I'm really excited about this one today. Roanoke and Richmond and Fredericksburg and everywhere all over Virginia for me has been awesome because there's a ton of people moving from Virginia to the Atlanta area and vice versa. So to have a really nice plethora, if you will, of people covering different geographies is obviously what we're here for today. But without further ado, Ginger Walker, thank you so much first and foremost for doing this. I know how busy you are leading your team and in production and everything, social media, everything that you guys do. So I really appreciate you taking the time. But for those that do not know you, just a quick little blurb about you, who you are, what you guys do, the areas that you serve, any specialty niches and stuff like that.
Yeah, sure. Well, thanks for having me.
Of
And
course.
I'm Ginger Walker. I run the Give Back team. I am in Stafford, Virginia. So if things start shake, rattling, and booming, like the camera starts moving, it's because I'm right near Quantico and they're blowing stuff up. So they do let us know when they're doing that, but it is possible because they did put something out today. But I run a team, a small team. We're actually all female. I've run the team since 2018 out of Stafford. I've been in production since 2008. So I was 10 years a solopreneur, and I actually started when the market went like this. So if I could learn to sell in that market, let me tell you something, this one's a piece of cake, so don't stress.
So
But
true.
I've run the team since 2018, and I'm really proud to say that we're not only have been since day one, number one in the brokerage of 8 offices, but we're number one in the state of Virginia for small teams for my brokerage, the big company, which is Coldwell Banker. So yeah, so I'm pretty excited about that. And we do serve a lot of military because we're right near Quantico. We cover from Fredericksburg, Spotsylvania, all the way north. We cover the V in the DMV. We don't cover the DC part or the Maryland part, but we do go all the way up to Alexandria and Arlington. And I've covered that whole area since 2008, since I started. So yeah, but we're pretty much focused with a lot of military and also in the luxury space in the more northern pocket of Virginia.
Yeah, I love that. And this is such a different kind of direction than I normally take things in. But one thing that you just talked about, and I try to convey this to other agents, not just in our area here in Atlanta, but all over, that really the smaller and more focused geographically that you can get, density is actually a lot more important than, coverage.
Mhm. It's
Especially
true.
when you have as many great relationships as you do in this business, not just in your state, but throughout the world now. Talk to us a little bit about that, and I also do want to talk about the Give Back team itself because that mission to me is really cool. Obviously, when you're serving a very specialized group of people like in the military, I think there's a lot of reasons why people choose to work with us every single day. But I especially love the fact that you've underlined that as your message. So let's tackle those two. First, the hyper local and knowing your area, but also how you built some relationships around Virginia, and then into the Give Back team.
Sure. So, for me, I've lived here for about 21 years, I think it is now. And I didn't start selling real estate right away. We built our house in 2002. I'm a Jersey girl at heart, worked in New York City. So moving here was kind of a unique experience because I'm not military. My husband is not military. He's government. And typically they don't move a lot, but we had the opportunity based on his job. He came here for what's called the hostage rescue team, which is only based out of Quantico for the FBI. So that's why we came here. And I started just loving where I live. Totally different than the experience of coming up Jersey, working in
Mhm.
New York City. Definitely, I mean, we live on several acres of land. That's that sort of living, which is kind of different and unique for me. But just being here in the community, I just loved houses. I love the architecture and all of that. And I'll be honest, some of my friends became realtors and all the cool kids were doing it. And I had always been in pharmaceutical sales. That was my background. And I wanted to get back into something people related, where I got to talk to people and I got to work with people and I got to help people. And so I fell into real estate. It was totally by accident, not by design, which when I talk about like everything with real estate is the case with all of it, to
Mhm.
include starting the team. It was totally by accident, not by design. But, just being in the community and going to the local gym, I have 2 kids that grew up in the town and went to the schools, year-round swimmers, things like that. I really became ingrained in the community. And
Yeah.
so I knew a lot of people and a lot of people knew me. So when I started in real estate, I was super fortunate because I had already a base of people that I knew that I could tap into and say, hey, if I could ever be of help to you. So staying hyper local for me was kind of interesting because where I sit, if you actually look at a map, Quantico is probably about 30 miles south of like the DC border, but there's a lot of traffic and there's a lot of towns in between where I sit and getting to DC.
Hmm.
Well, in working, I started getting a lot of single guys that wanted to live in Alexandria. So Alexandria was a new place for me. So I figured, well, you know what? This is where they keep asking me to go. They know I'm not as familiar with that area, although I would go out there for dinner and stuff like that. I really started learning that as my second backyard, which was kind of unique because you can see, yeah, if you skip up and over, it's right near like that DC border.
Hmm.
So I actually started specializing in Alexandria and Arlington in addition to my own backyard. And so families that were moving here, they wanted the in between. So that's kind of how I really started. But I'll be honest with you right now, I am far more hyper focused in my true backyard of Stafford County. So Fredericksburg and Stafford are where most of my business happens and most of my team's business happens. But I am bringing on people who specialize in other areas so that the team is not only expanding a little bit in size, but that geographical coverage is going to be something that we're going to be able to more specialize a little bit deeper,
Yeah.
which for me is a great thing because we have a lot of clients who want to go a little further north or a little further west. And I don't know those areas quite as well as maybe someone who lives, works, and breathes in that area.
Yeah. Well, and that's such an important point, and I'll pull this map back up here real quick because if you're just watching this for the very first time, or if you're new to the channel, this is howmoney.com. If you click explore the data up here, this is Virginia, and so we're talking in this general North Virginia area. And what's interesting, Ginger, just as you were talking there, I was looking at Fairfax here. This is very unique, where we don't see many states that have a mix. So red, deep red is where money's leaving. More money is leaving than coming in, and deep dark green like Loudoun County up here and Stafford and Fredericksburg, that's more money coming in than leaving. And so all of
Right.
these areas have people moving, and this is all IRS tax data, by the way. But like if we click on Stafford County as an example, to your point, a lot, and just like here in Atlanta, Georgia, a lot of people are leaving Atlanta and going to Forsyth County out of Fulton, and you're seeing a lot of that kind of outward migration, especially 3 years ago when we started enduring the pandemic here. People's lives changed pretty drastically, and a lot more people working from home, wanting a different lifestyle, so on and so forth. But this website is a great tool for that, and also educating your clients on, hey, here's where, if you're looking to sell, here's where people are coming from that you're going to sell your house to, most likely. And we're talking billions of dollars, so it's not like 5 people. We're talking about
Right.
80, 90, 100 people every single day, at least here to the Atlanta area. So talk to us a little bit about the team, though, how you came up with the name, the purpose. Of course, I love the idea of legacy and something bigger than ourselves. So talk to us a little bit about that, and also the culture of giving, because I think that's really cool.
So, I said it before, it was all by accident, not by design. I mean, so when I started in real estate, I always gave back. That was part of that's how I grew up. My mom, at Christmas time would say, okay, pick 3 toys that you want Santa to take to another child, and they have to be in good condition and all that sort of stuff that we could have Santa pass along, because you have to give 3 to get 3.
Mm.
So that was kind of how I always grew up, was in the giving spirit. And that was definitely as a result of my mom. Well, when I started in business, even in pharmaceuticals, I always volunteered. I always tried to do something where I could give back in some way, whether it was financial or with my time. So when I started, in real estate, one of my friends started what's called the Fairy Godmother Project, and it was giving the gift of time to local families in Fredericksburg and Stafford who had a child with pediatric cancer. And so it was not trying to find the cure, but trying to help the family. So it was all different types of things that they would do and services. And so she asked me to come up with a basket, and it was their first charitable fundraiser that they were doing. And so I did. And I was like, wow, this is a really amazing organization. I want to help. And so I ended up on the board of directors for
Mm.
this organization. And so long story short, I would do a lot of the fundraisers, and I had this poster up, and someone came up to me and said, you're always doing things like this outside of real estate. You're like the give back girl. and it stuck. So then I became known, that's what I became known as, was the give back girl. And I was like, that's actually kind of cool. I like it. So the natural progression, when I ended up with far more business than I could handle, which is an amazing problem.
Absolutely.
I had a couple of choices, and one was to continue to refer it out, which I didn't really want to do. And one of my coaches was like, well, why don't you start a team? That was the other option. So I did that, and I started a team, and I kind of did that backwards too. I hired an agent versus hiring an assistant first, and learned from my mistakes, and then ended up with a great coach that kind of set me on the right path. But because I had been known as the give back girl, that was the mission that I wanted to continue when I started the team. So there's all kinds of models and things like that that I can go into and elaborate on how to give back in a business. But the long and short of it was, I really wanted to have people on the team that felt the same way. And so the way I look at it is, everyone has a something. There's always a something, right, that tears or tugs at our heartstrings. And whatever that is, that could be where your give back went to. And so one of the interviews that I have on every interview is, what's the charity of your choice? If you had the ability to give an unlimited amount of money or time, where would you give it and why? And so for me, that was the important question. Like, I can teach someone how to sell a house. Like, I can't teach necessarily sales is something that you have to be able to do, or talking to people is really hard to, that's something that's inside you. But the other pieces of the puzzle I could teach, but the giving heart is always, it's either there or it's not. And I find that more people have it than you realize. And so that was a key piece for me when I was looking to bring people on the team. And the charity of their choice is something that we also, as a group collectively, will support either financially or with our time. So, I have kids, I have dogs, I have cats, I have a husband, I do. And I love where I live. And so for me, the give back was to help the families, anyone with a child that needed some assistance. We also go to the local animal shelter. We pay for all the animals every year for Clear the Shelters, buy the t-shirts and all the food. And we make it a big event. We talk about it on the radio and do all kinds of fun stuff. And then we partner with Children's National Hospital every year to do a big fundraiser for them, and the schools with the backpack drive and the coat drive. So there's all kinds of things that we do that aren't just financially based, that are also with our time. And that was the cool thing for me when I was looking for people to join the team, that they had to be of that same spirit.
Yeah. I love that. And I think our industry gets a bad rap sometimes about the intent and our purpose and the legacy that we do want to leave behind. And I love that you've attached this to it, because to me, there's an interesting business dynamic that kind of comes along with that, which is culture. And my broker and I were talking about this yesterday, like, what makes a great culture? How do you communicate your culture? And to me, it's almost one of those things you have to see in action, and especially with giving back to causes that are important to your team, to you individually, to your community in general. I think that's amazing. And I feel like more people should talk about this type of stuff in our space, because, again, people choose us for a myriad of reasons. But when you understand why we're in business and who we are, I mean, I think it's kind of naturally ingrained in us as real estate people. We help people every single day,
Right. Yeah.
through what we do. But to be able to take it to a totally different level, I think is super cool. And especially in a hyper local level, but also as you continue to expand, there's going to be new opportunities to give. And look, no one loves to write a check faster than I do, but I love giving of the time, because to me, to see the purpose and thing in action is really, really cool. So I commend you for that. And I love
Thank
the
you.
story.
Thank you.
And I've heard you tell it a couple different ways, but I love to hear just how pure that part is. So thank you for doing that and shedding a good light
I
on
love,
real
well,
estate agents, because I think it's really cool.
It's a neat thing. And the other piece of the puzzle that I didn't mention is that our clients get to choose the charity of their choice at closing, and we make a donation back after closing to the charity of their choice too. So it's bringing them in and making them feel a part of our community even more, because that's a bond that we now have. And I'll tell you, Matt, I've learned about charities, like not just national charities that I never heard of, but like local charities in my own backyard. Truly, there was a charity. It's for veterans, and they help train dogs. So service dogs. And it truly was like 4 miles from my house. I've lived in my house for 21 years, and I'm like, how long has this been here? Are you kidding me? So for me, it's kind of really a neat thing because we're able to shed light because we not only give them money or give them our time, but we promote them on social media. So we're talking about them, we're blogging about them. When we make a donation, we try and highlight them as the
Mhm.
charity, not us because we've done the big check, but the charity because that's who is the important focus of all of this.
Yeah.
So we do all kinds of things like that. But that's the coolest thing is when I find a charity that I never even heard of, and I'm like, how did I not know about this?
Yeah.
So, it's pretty special.
I love that. No, you're so right. When I started doing videos, I was going around the community and talking to a lot of nonprofits because, to your point, a lot of them are doing anything to get exposure.
Mhm.
And you have the board of directors, and then you have all the volunteers, and it can be a massive organization, but it can also be super lean and super small, and they will take any and every bit of help that you can give them. And I love to do that, and in fact, more than the businesses sometimes, because the businesses, it felt like a little stodgy, a little too formal. Whereas with these people, there was passion there, and it was, to me, it was a lot more fun,
Yeah,
selfishly,
for
to shoot
sure.
videos with them because they love what they do. You can see that, and especially the volunteers, the ones that are there weekly or monthly, that's just a really cool perspective. So if you haven't done something with your community, especially for the nonprofits that you probably don't even know exist, highly encourage that. I love that. So talk to us a little bit about the current state of the market. Obviously, this is going to come out like in the next month. Things are going to change by the time we get off this call anyway, but but talk to us a little bit about your market right now, kind of what you're seeing, what's normal for the moment. Again, it's going to change, but the trends you're seeing, whether it's in design, in the market itself, also the change in population and stuff. What have you kind of seen over the last couple of years here, and then where do you think it's headed?
So for us, we're in a military area. So we have what's called PCS season,
Hmm.
and it is in conjunction with spring market typically. So, we have people coming over their spring break to buy their house. They wait till school ends and that's the closing. What I'm seeing this year is it's actually shifted. It's later. Our spring market is later now. We have people that are putting their house on the market now, which, normally it would have been on the market maybe late February into the very beginning of March.
Hmm.
And we're almost in May. I know this is going to probably come out in a little while, but,
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, for us, we are almost like starting the spring market. We're towards the beginning, not towards the end, which I find kind of unique because in selling real estate for as long as I have in this particular area, it's usually pretty clockwork when it happens. Outside of COVID, that definitely changed
Sure,
things a little bit and what the
sure.
consistency factor was. But so for us, I mean, I'm still going on more listing appointments this time of year than I did last time,
Mm.
last year. So that's actually kind of promising, especially because people, I think, as we've moved away from that 3% interest rate, which here we have a lot of VA loans, so we had a lot of really low interest rates. But as we're starting to move further away from that as what was the norm to what was maybe more the norm pre-COVID, as far as interest rates,
Mhm.
I think what we're now seeing is a little bit more of a comfortability in the market here,
Mhm.
but we are struggling for homes to sell. I mean, our inventory probably much like everywhere else, because I know we talk and inventory is tight. It's definitely something that we're struggling with. And what I'm seeing is that, for our military members that are maybe here for 3 years, they bought because they had a great interest rate. So they buy and then they turn around and rent. And our rental market has gone, so um right now, I have one that's coming soon as a rental, and I already have an application on it and a bunch of interest. And so that's not as normal as what we
Mm.
would have seen before, but it's more normal for what we're seeing now. Um, the thing that's a little not concerning, but of note is that we do have a lot of people who are trying to sell their homes with the VA loan and do it as an assumable loan. But the balance is because our values have still continued to rise here, depending on, where we're talking about in my realtor bubble, but it's
Mhm.
sitting in Stafford County, it's gone up 9% from last year.
Wow.
So, the average in our realtor association area is only about 3 to 4%,
Mhm.
but Stafford seems to be holding a higher value, and so does Fredericksburg City,
Mm.
going up a little bit faster. So, what we're finding is that those VA assumable loans, they're not really being assumed because the delta is too much for someone to make up.
Mhm.
And they're turning around and rather selling, they're putting them on the market to rent because they're going to make a good amount of money on that
Sure,
rental. So
sure.
that is sort of what we're seeing right now. But there's definitely a serious buyer pool that are out there that are looking for those homes, and sellers, they're taking their time to get it on the market. But if it's priced well for how it shows, we're still seeing multiple offers, over list price, gap guarantees, appraisal waivers and all that other good stuff too, or maybe not good stuff. It depends on how you look at it.
Well, right, yeah, depending on which chair you're in.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, well, no, it's very similar, to Atlanta here. Obviously not the military presence, but a lot of investors came here, and, a year ago, what was 100% is now like 50% investors, so they're still buying, but they're not buying at the rate they were. But to your point, 99% of mortgages or whatever being at 6% or below, and 85% or 88% of those being at like 5% or below, you have a
Mhm.
lot of people that are just stuck, for lack of a better term, that would
Right.
love to upgrade or downgrade or right size or move areas or whatever, but feel like, well, is the squeeze really worth it? And what you talked about there as far as the assumable loans is why I like to have people like you on for these types of interviews, because you can go down this rabbit hole of there's this one thing that's happening in the market, in my market, right? And
Yep.
to me, that shows a couple of things: market knowledge, your experience, obviously, but that you're watching the trends. And that's really what I try to bring a value, because even if that never happens in Atlanta, Georgia, that's still a value to know that it could happen, that the possibilities out there. And certainly with VAs and assumable loans and everything, that's a whole nother animal than what most people are
Yeah.
traditionally used to. But I love that you mentioned that. And so where do you think things are headed for your local area there, and specifically more for your team as it continues to grow within that area, and kind of reaching into new geography? What are you most excited about?
Well, I'm excited about reaching into new geography. I truly am.
Yeah.
And it's a sad thing, but this type of market, a lot of agents leave.
Mm,
And so it's us staying, right, and being the professionals in the area, that I think is going to expand our growth even further,
mm.
and like I said, I started in 2008. I jumped in with both feet, like just jumped right into the pile of mud and got all kinds of dirty. And everyone was running for the shower and getting out, right? Like they were like, ah, no.
Mm,
Um, and so for me, I think that's really what helped me at the beginning, because I
sure.
was in there, trying to figure it out, slug it out, learn foreclosures and short sales. I mean, that was what we were dealing with at that time, not what we're dealing with now. Totally different market. But I think the consistency then is what led me to where I am now. So I'm excited for the consistency now to lead to bigger things in the future, because I do think if you're a real estate agent and you're listening to this, consistency with your phone calls, they say back to basics. And I know everyone's like, back to basics. What exactly does that mean? Well, what it means is, maybe getting your feet dirty and jumping
Mm,
back into the mud and doing the things that are maybe a little bit more hard work, because you're not just getting the lead and then writing the offer and high-fiving each other at the closing table. There's a lot more to it right now. So whatever that means to you, on the phones, door knocking, open houses, just constantly being persistent and consistent in your business is the key. And so for us, that's what I'm excited for, is when the corner turns a little bit more, because we're busy,
mm,
and I'm going to knock on my fake wood desk about that. But I think, because of the ability to grow where other people are shrinking, we're trying to expand modestly,
mhm,
that I do think that the future is only going to be even brighter for us. And I'm excited about that. And then for our clients, I'm excited for them too, because we do have a lot of military here, but we don't have all military.
mhm,
And with the values going up, but not as crazy as they had before, there's still the ability to get a very good deal on an amazing opportunity here. And if you're selling, it's a great time to do that, because you're getting, if you've bought it in the last couple of years, and we have a lot of military that have to move. It's not, to your point, it's not whether or not they want to move, but they've got orders to go because they're only here
mhm.
for 3 years. So I'm excited for them too, because, they are having the ability to get the equity out of the house of their investment if they have to go. And a lot of them are going into base housing because they can't necessarily afford to compete in the next market, which is unfortunate. But it's just that opportunity for growth in the future, which makes me super excited.
Yeah. Well, and I love that you put it that way, because to me, you're exactly right. There's going to be a ton of people that get out of the business that can't hack it anymore, haven't put the systems in place, don't have the referrals and so on and so forth. And I think it was like end of year 2, beginning of year 3, I was like, man, if this is where we plateau as far as values, and we don't know what's going to happen, right? But if this is where we plateau in values, and I did this many deals, and I only do that many deals next year, we got to add a different different flow of business here. And that's
Right.
why I started doing a lot of this type of stuff, where I was connecting with referral partners. Obviously, Clubhouse came along as well and really helped fast forward that whole journey. But there was this whole other way of doing business that a lot of people have built their entire business that way.
Mm.
Um, but my sphere of influence, my database and everything, they were just not producing at the level that I anticipated. And, especially as the market and the number of sales decreases and kind of retracts a little bit, you have to look for new and inventive ways, but also kind of, like you said, go back to those basics of what has always worked,
Yeah.
which is, and a lot of the business I've gotten in the last like 90 days is that guy never reached out to us again. Well, when you bought that house, why aren't you using that guy to sell it? Well, he never
Right.
followed up. There was no system in place. And it's funny because a lot of them are following up now and
Right.
it's a little too late,
Yeah,
but I've been there too. I'm just as guilty, but that's why you try to systematize a lot of this stuff and put those processes in place, because the moment you lose touch is the moment someone's going to go buy something or sell something. So I love that you
absolutely.
mentioned that. But in kind of closing here, Ginger, if someone's watching this, and as I told you before, everyone's going to skip to this like last minute or so. If someone has to get a hold of you like today, what's the fastest way? If they've got a referral, if they're another agent, if they're watching this and they're like, Virginia sounds amazing, I want to move to Northern Virginia,
Virginia is
let's
amazing, by
go.
the way.
Or they love your mission. I mean, again, there's a ton of different reasons why people choose us, but if someone's watching this is like, I gotta talk to Ginger today, or talk to someone on her team today, what's the best way for them to reach out?
You can go right to our website. It's givebackteam.com. It's super easy. Or you can find me on Instagram, DM me there. I'm the real Ginger Walker, not the fake Ginger Walker, the real Ginger Walker.
There's only one. There's
There's only
only
one.
one. That's for sure. Well, thank you again. I really appreciate you doing this and taking the time. I know again how busy you are and trying to make it happen for your clients and maintaining the team there. But I really appreciate your time. Hope you have a wonderful weekend, and thanks again.
Thanks, Matt.
Talk to you soon.